I think we all knew you could pitch, but when you get into a professional environment, you being right out of high school and having to instantly switch into being a grown man and an adult, were you shocked at all that you were able to have as much success and there really wasn't any kind of a period where it looked like you were having to integrate or acclimate? You went right in and started blowing the doors off these guys.
Yeah, it was one of those situations where I went in with an open mind and said, like, I'm gonna give them my best stuff and see what happens. And fortunately, I had a lot of success at the lower levels. And then as I moved up, it just kind of got a little bit better. And I think like a part of that is I'm a big product of my environment. And anytime I'm playing like at a higher level, I feel like I have to meet that standard. So I feel like it was honestly like a benefit to me to be able to perform at those higher levels at a younger age.
Yeah, but again, I mean, there's not many guys that if you take your first year in the minor leagues and add it all up, I mean, when somebody comes up to you and goes, wow, we're looking at this body of work here over the last year, and there's only 5 guys that have ever achieved your ascent as quickly as you've had, and then the numbers that you put up, and 2 of the guys are Greinke and Kershaw. I mean, does that get your attention like, oh, I might be onto something here?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really like put like my finger on any particular thing that's really making that happen, but I mean, it's definitely pretty cool to be in that rare company with Kershaw and Greinke. I also think that it's a part of being with an organization that's just so liberal in the way that they move guys up and down the organization. So I feel like I'm pretty lucky to be a part of the Astros organization, just in the fact that I was having early success and they were really testing my abilities.
Okay, well, I mean, so you go from Alamo Heights, you obviously have unbelievable ability and you have talent. How much science went into turning you into a professional pitcher, especially initially?
I wouldn't say like the initial part of it was super scientific. It was more this year, and yeah, more this year there was kind of like the analytical turn for me, and where I was really starting to understand like what the Astros were trying to instill in me as far as their development. But when I was developing in high school, I kind of was just scratching the surface of like what I knew as far as like the analytical side of baseball. I felt like at the time I was pretty savvy on it, but it turned out I really didn't know that much because the Astros really had like every bit of information on me beforehand. So it's just so cool to really dive into all that information and see how it can benefit a player's development.
Okay, so what are the things specifically that you've really worked on and made yourself a better pitcher since you've gotten to the professional ranks?
The big thing that I try to focus on in pitch development is just trying to create lines with pitches. For example, if I am in an 0-1 count with a hitter and I throw him a fastball high and away, the next best pitch would be to counter that would be like a curveball, kind of starting on that same line at the high and away location to a righty and falling off, or vice versa. If I go 0-1, throw him a curveball, starts high and away, ends up low and away, I can throw him a fastball and it kind of creates that optical illusion like it's going to be in the same location, and he swings and misses. So that's been like a huge thing for me, and I can kind of I can mix and match with like the changeup, the slider, the cutter, the fastball. And I feel like that's how I've had like most of my success.
Now they've kind of been patient with you in terms of, they're certainly not overworking you at this level. I mean, do you feel like sometimes you'd really like to just let it loose and see how far you could stretch things out? I mean, I know, the fall league obviously was a step in that direction, but do you feel like, that there's sometimes you feel like there's this unbridled, unharnessed energy that's just waiting to get out because they've been so patient with you and trying to build you up as a professional pitcher?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, I'd like to go out there and throw 7 innings every time, but it's a process, and I trust the organization to handle my innings and pitch count limit properly. So, although it is frustrating that I don't get to go out there and throw 110, 120 pitches every time like I'd like to, I do trust what they're doing with me.
Speaking of 110, we saw your tweet the other day, and I think the interesting thing about it was obviously the velocity, number one, but at the end of it, did you throw your glove because you didn't throw it 120, or were you just like, man, you were so jacked that you threw it that hard?
So the story behind that is the guy that I was doing pull downs with, Shane Boz, who's with the Rays now. We're very close friends, and the throw before that, I think I hit like 107, and he got up in my ear, he's like, you can't hit me higher than that. You can't do it. So, that obviously brought up some like some anger in me. So the very next time I got 110, and my first reaction was to throw the glove at him. Kind of spiked a little bit, didn't really get to him, but it was funny nonetheless.
Oh, you throw strikes, you don't necessarily have to be good with the glove when you're
Right.
throwing it. How far or how hard can you throw it when you're just goofing around and you're not trying to throw strikes? Can you throw it from the mound to home plate?
There was a pull down session that I had last year before spring training that it was also posted on the internet. We were doing just like a velocity pin, and I hit 99. I've hit a higher velocity since then in games, but I'm getting into mound velocity sessions in January. I'm actually going up to Driveline January 20th through the 26th with a couple buddies, Kyle Muller up in Dallas, and then Nate Pearson in Florida, a couple guys that throw pretty hard too. So we're going to have some fun mound velocity sessions, and I think we're going to do some live VPs, so that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I don't even know how people, we went and saw your last game that you pitched at Wolf Stadium. It's like, and I was sitting pretty close to home plate. I don't even know how these guys hit anymore. I mean, it's like if you can't see what's coming, much less you and doing it the way you do it. I mean, do you ever shock yourself the fact that you can throw not only that hard, but you have multiple pitches that you're throwing basically from the same arm slot? And I mean, that's quite an arsenal or, a repertoire that you can unleash on the hitters. And I would think that, that makes you a pretty hot commodity in the ranks of the Houston Astros for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess when you're comparing it to other pitchers around minor league and Major League Baseball, the kind of the ability that I have to cut, ride, curve, just spin the ball in general, I feel like is a little bit rare. It's always been something that I've been very good at since a young age. I mean, I didn't always throw very hard, but I was able to spin the ball like really well ever since I was like 11 or 12 years old. And then once the velocity came, it all kind of came together, fortunately.
Well, yeah, you're kind of sandbagging, right? Because your spin rate was not only the highest rate of anybody in the minor leagues, it's also the highest spin rate even of current guys pitching in the major leagues, right?
Yes, that is true.
So, I mean, is that all natural, or was there some things that the Astros did to tweak it to make it even better than what it is now?
My spin rate has always been pretty high, and I know that just from the data that the Astros accumulated when I was a senior in high school, and I've kind of looked in that. It's definitely taken a step forward, not like a significant step forward, but I've kind of bounced around some theories in my head of why like my spin rate might be a little bit better than other people's. I think it might be because of the fact that I've been throwing weighted balls since I was like 12 years old. Maybe I've just accumulated a little bit more like finger strength, grip strength, but. There's another guy in our system, JB Bukauskas, who also has like elite spin rate, and he doesn't do weighted balls at all. So, I mean, I feel like it's just kind of an anomaly. It's very strange.
Well, it's obviously, I'm sure you're not going to check that at the curb anytime soon. Well, how exciting is this for you, knowing that you're going to go to spring training here in a couple months? What have the Astros told you about what they have in store for you or what they've envisioned for you when you go to Florida in February?
They haven't really told me much. In the fall league, they told me I'm just gonna go to spring training and I'm gonna get my shot, and that's as far as they told me. So obviously pretty vague, but I'm looking forward to going to Florida and kind of being with the guys, meeting Verlander and Cole, and kind of like staying in their hip pocket and learning from them, and just seeing what I can do to become a better player.
But I mean, just the thought that you're going to big league camp with a chance. I mean, does that excite you at all? I mean, I'm sure you've lived, most of your adult life thinking about an opportunity to do this and to do it at 21 years old. I mean, not a lot of guys are going to have that chance to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've envisioned it so many times the past like 3 or 4 years that I don't want to say it's become old, but I'm so used to thinking this thought of cracking a big league roster out of spring training that it's just. Yeah, it's exciting, but it's also, it's my job. It's my main goal, and I will do anything I can to accomplish it.
All right. So, what's the mindset going in? Do you have to be like? Do you feel like you have to be in like mid-season pitching form when you get to Florida, or do you still have to follow some routine to build up arm strength and get ready for a season, no matter where you end up?
Well, before I get to Florida, February 7th, I'm gonna be ready to go. I will have plenty of bullpens under my wing at that point. And I'm gonna try to be as consistent as possible. So if that means going in a midseason form, that means going in a midseason form. But at the same time, I also have to be cognizant of the fact that I also have to stretch that out for a long period of time, maybe going in October. So I also have to just be aware of that.
All right, but I mean, do you feel like you've got to put up these great numbers in spring training to get their attention in order to make the big league club, or do you feel like there's going to be some leeway? Because I would imagine there's still you still have to use spring training to work on this, work on that, or whatever it is that you have to do in order to get ready for your season.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a part of it, definitely, performing well. But I think an even bigger part of it is just like seeing how the Astros seeing how I take my work day to day, and I feel like that's going to be the most important thing is how they perceive me in the locker room, and how focused I can stay during that time. So just going in mentally strong and ready to go is going to be the most important thing.
Any added pressure knowing that you're not walking into a situation where a team is in a total rebuild, and so there's less pressure, I would think. You're going to a team that's pretty well established, obviously, having won a World Series 2 years ago and then getting to the Final Four last year. I mean, the added pressure of taking the mound for a team that has pretty high aspirations to do some things late into the year.
I've thought about that, and honestly, there really isn't a whole lot of pressure. I think it just adds, it just makes it more fun for me. Like it would mean a whole lot more to crack a team that would, that's in the race and favored to win the World Series as well. So I wouldn't say there's any added pressure there.
How exciting of a time is it for your family and your friends and everybody here in San Antonio that has kind of watched you grow and develop, and now you're going to get a shot?
Yeah, it's really cool. My friends and family are very excited. It's a topic of discussion a lot, but at the same time, you kind of got to hunker down, block out all the outside noise and focus on the goal at hand.